My husband is 40 and I'm 44 male. We've been married for 20 years and together for 22. Our adoptive son is 24. He's black and we're not. I'm only mentioning this because it's relevant to the story later. This does not take place in the US. Let me give a little bit of background to the situation. About 19 years ago, my husband and I were driving on a highway, back from a short vacation, when along a particularly long stretch of road, absolutely no buildings around, only a ton of grass and hills as far as the eye could see, we spotted a little boy just sitting by the side of the road. As I mentioned, there was nothing around for miles and no cars close to where the boy was, so we decided to stop and see if everything was okay. When we got closer to the boy, let's call him Jason, fake name, it was very easy to see he was dirty and malnourished, since the only thing he had on were some diapers. He was so small it didn't look like he could be older than a toddler. Later found out he was kindergarten age. We asked him why he was alone and he told us, Mummy and Daddy put him here and told him to wait. There was no cell signal, so we did the sensible thing and brought him back to town to the nearest police station. To make a long story short, CPS was called. We discovered his parents were some druggies that were on the run from a felony. The only other relative Jason had was his grandmother, who was very mentally ill and couldn't take care of him, and we felt terrible. He went into foster care soon after, but we felt bad for the kid and kept in touch with his caseworker. I had, still do, an extremely well-paying job at the time. I could easily afford a decent lifestyle for a small family, so after a few months of discussions between ourselves, the caseworker and some bureaucracy, we formally adopted Jason. Now on to the situation. About 3 years ago, Jason's parents were released from prison on parole. They contacted him only a short time later in hopes of reconnecting. Prior to that, they'd sent him a few odd letters here and there, but nothing substantial. At first, he was hesitant to talk to them, but he ended up caving and meeting them for lunch one day. I'll admit that a part of me was a bit jealous and apprehensive of what could happen, but I could see that it really was something that my son wanted to do, so for his sake, I swallowed those concerns and supported him through it. It wasn't very long, about 3 months I think, that he started to pull away from us. At first, I chalked it up to him being excited to talk to his bio parents after so long, to talk about what had been going on in his life, spend some time with them, etc. It started to bother me when he cancelled plans with us at the last minute because Mom had an emergency or Dad really needs me to help him with something today, or whatever other excuse he could come up with. He used to come over to our house at least once a week and call every day or two, but now we were lucky if he ever came by that month. Again, I thought that was just temporary, that he was just excited and soon enough he'd start spending some time with us again. We were overjoyed when he invited us over to dinner one night. It was supposed to be a family gathering, us and his bio parents and his wife, girlfriend at the time. I wasn't exactly keen on meeting the people who'd left my son for dead on the side of the road, but I decided to give them the benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe they'd atoned and changed. Besides, he's our son and we love him. We had to at least try. To say the dinner was a disaster is an understatement. His bio mom was extremely rude to my husband and me the entire night, making passive-aggressive, homophobic and racist remarks every chance she got. His father was much the same. It all came to a head when she straight up called us a curse word and threw a glass at my husband. A screaming match followed and we left soon after. The next day, Jason apologized profusely and promised they'd never do something like that again. I told them neither my husband nor I wanted to have anything to do with them and would appreciate it if he understood that. He seemed to, but he continued to pull away the next few months. And that leads to what happened last week. Jason proposed to his girlfriend about 9 months back and has been preparing for the wedding since. Of course, we were overjoyed for him. But a few months went by and no invitation came. Whenever we asked, Jason would say they hadn't been sent out yet and changed the subject. Well, last week my husband saw a Twitter post from one of Jason's friends, his groomsman, that went a few weeks back with the invitation in his hands. We confronted Jason about it the next time he came over, only for him to drop the bomb on us, saying that we hadn't been invited. We asked why and he said his parents didn't want us there and wouldn't come if we did. I was furious. I asked him how could he choose those pieces of trash over us, why they were so important, what we did to deserve this kind of treatment. His answer? They understand me better. They're my people. At this point, my husband was crying, asking how he could do it. I've only ever been truly angry a few times in life, and this moment managed to top them all. I threw him out immediately and then told him never to return, that he wasn't our son anymore. I spent the rest of the day hugging my husband and trying to calm him down. The next day, I cancelled everything we'd paid for the wedding, which was basically everything important, even the ones we couldn't get a refund for. Of course, Jason had the gall to call and scream at me, asking how I could do that to him. Where would he find replacements for a wedding that was supposed to happen only a few months from now? I told him I didn't care and said, maybe you should ask those two leeches you call parents for help. 19 years. 19 damn years of my damn life spent raising and loving a kid that I considered my own son, only to be treated like garbage, giving blood, sweat and tears so he would have a good life and all the love we could possibly give, and this is what we get as a reward. As for why I'm asking if I'm the idiot, some people have been calling and messaging us, mostly Jason's friends and a few of our family members, calling us heartless and monsters for doing what we did to him. And that got me questioning if I went too far in anger. After all, parents are supposed to love unconditionally, right? But if so, how do we ever get over something like this? How can we deal with this feeling of betrayal? Are we justified in feeling like that? So, am I the idiot for disowning my son? Edit, for clarity, my husband and I did not legally marry in 2004. The max we could do at the time was enter a legal partnership, which we did. We did have a small private ceremony and have considered ourselves husbands ever since. We did legally marry as soon as it became legal, though. As for Jason's adoption, the foster system here is an absolute mess. Now, at the time, 2 men adopting a child would have been hard. Yes, but not impossible, especially since his caseworker was in favour of it after we'd had legal guardianship of him for a while. I have an extremely well-paying job, and even if you can barely feed yourself over here, there's a good chance you'll be able to adopt. There's a ton of kids in need and the system is oversaturated, so it wasn't that hard to get it going. Not being invited to the wedding isn't the reason I'm mad. It stings, sure, but I'm angry at Jason for what he said and his complete lack of consideration for me and his father. We were the ones to raise him, to love him. We were there when he first rode a bike. Every single one of his robotics competitions, piano recitals, first breakup, disagreements with friends, sleepless nights helping him study for exams, etc. I love him with all my heart. He's my son, and he let his bio parents treat us the way they did and didn't even have the decency to tell us we weren't invited to the wedding. It was the straw that broke the camel's back and one that really hurt. Not the idiot. Did he seriously expect you to pay for a wedding that you weren't even damn invited to? Goddamn audacity of it has my blood boiling. Let's see how long the wife stays when she realizes all her money is going to her mooches, in-laws, or when they move in because they can't afford their rent. Yes, that marriage isn't lasting. Anyone who ditches 2 loving parents for a pair of drug addicts is probably not someone you'd want to marry. If he's that cruel to the parents who raised him, he will surely choose them over his wife. OP, I'm sincerely sorry for your loss. This is every adoptive parent's worst nightmare. Jason's parents are criminal trash who left a very young kid in diapers on the side of the road. Yet he chose them over his parents, who spent 19 years raising him. Definitely an idiot move on his part. OP, not the idiot. Jason will find out the hard way he can't depend on his bio parents. Let him. In the meantime, block him, his fiancée and everyone coming at you. You've found who your actual friends are in this situation. My 32 female brother's fiancée Chelsea, 32 also, does not fit in well with our family. She's very loud and has never had a full-time job. Both my parents are in their mid-60s and continue to work full-time with no ability to retire. I know her family has struggled even more financially. My parents have always been very kind to Chelsea, though blow-ups have happened with my dad related to her excessive smoking and financial decision-making. She and my brother announced their engagement around 2 or 3 years ago. This led to some intense planning and spending despite their lack of money. Shortly after, they announced she was pregnant. They ended up cancelling the reception, but only after losing the deposit. The baby has since been born. Because we want people to have somewhere to go after their ceremony, my dad offers to host a barbecue for them. Chelsea is initially hesitant, but eventually gets on board and creates a Facebook group with everyone she wants invited, including our extended family. She insists we not refer to the event as the reception because she still believes they will have the reception they intended at some point. She made it clear to the group that we were planning the event. My parents and I got together and clarified roles. The budget is a couple thousand, including food, chair rentals, etc. I made a website where people can RSVP. I post the RSVP link to the Facebook group. Shortly after, she starts peppering me with questions about food, etc. She seems pleased with my responses. Then she asks, is it going to be a bring your own bottle kind of thing, or if we're going to be providing the alcohol? It's 7 in the morning. I informed her that we aren't providing alcohol and that my dad prefers to not have alcohol because of liability concerns. She absolutely explodes and sends me a slew of messages. Here are the highlights. A dry reception is stupid. No one will come if the event is dry. If people can't drink, they will smoke. My family is judgmental. It's not what she had envisioned for her day. I weather the comments, telling her to discuss it with my brother and bring up her concerns with my dad. She then says that if there's no alcohol, there'll be no barbecue. She proceeded to delete my RSVP request from the Facebook group and added a post that said the event was cancelled on account of no alcohol. This is mortifying to me. 20 people had already RSVP'd. I'm livid to the point that it affected me at work all week. I think she's ungrateful and entitled, and she's behaved atrociously toward the family that she's joining. I sent her an angry message saying that she had disrespected my parents and that she'd thrown my work in my face, to which she responded, "Nothing is getting thrown in your face, it's cancelled unless we can make alcohol happen. Not a big deal." She continues to insist that my parents and I are in the wrong. Am I the idiot? Edit, we also wanted to limit things to costs that we would cover money-wise. My brother is not interested in planning, not in a bad way, he has a lot going on. The idea came about because the extended family would be travelling for about 30 minutes, and it seemed sad to just have a 30-minute ceremony at a church and then go directly home. Everyone's the idiot. You and your parents know full well that alcohol is a normal part of socializing in the US, especially at a celebration. To say you're throwing a celebration in honor of someone and wait until after sending invites to disclose that is intentional deception or awful planning. She's also an idiot for how she reacted and talked about the cancellation. I get the vibe that they're punishing Chelsea with a bad reception because they hate her. LOL. You are the idiot. By your own admission, your dad has picked fights with a grown woman about her own finances and how much weed she smokes. Two things that are most assuredly none of her business. So your family has a history of overstepping and animosity towards the bride. Your own post is dripping with judgment and dislike of her. Your parents didn't offer to host to do something nice for her or your brother. In your edit, you say they didn't want to make the family drive. Gasp, half an hour just for the ceremony. You mean just to watch them get married? Isn't that important enough? So they wanted to host a gathering, which is fine, but if you're going to pretend it's for the couple, you should at least let them have some input. She's right about many things she says when she explodes. Your family is judgmental. Having a dry event completely changes the vibe of an event. Edit to update. Thanks everyone for your feedback. In retrospect, hosting the event for me was about pleasing extended family and not about the couple, which is wrong. In my defense, I threw her a nice baby shower with my mom and took her wedding dress shopping, so I tried to be genuinely helpful at points. My dad says he told them no alcohol, but obviously she didn't understand, or he could be revising history. I'm one of her bridesmaids, and I'm starting to think I shouldn't be after realizing how deep my resentment and judgment toward her are. Ex Marcia has always been a bit of a free spirit and hippie. We divorced because our life vision changed from when we were initially married. She then began dating Paul, and they've been together for 5 years. Our kids are now a young teen and a tween. I've never had a problem with Paul. He's a lot like Marcia and makes her happy. Plus, the kids seem to like him. Marcia and I used to split custody 50-50. Then, a year ago, out of nowhere, Marcia told me that she and Paul wanted to travel the country in a renovated van. I guess Paul is a massive fan of van life culture on social media. She wanted me to give permission for her to bring the kids and let them be homeschooled for a year. I could fly out to see the kids a few times, or she'd fly them back. We had the homeschool debate when our oldest was younger, and I'd always been against it. Neither of us was equipped to educate the kids in that manner. I still don't feel we are. Not to mention, by this point the kids loved their school, and more importantly, I didn't want to not see them for months at a time. I refused to sign off on this. The kids didn't want to go either. Because our custody agreement says we must both approve trips out of state for the kids, the judge declined her request. Marcia decided to go anyway. She willingly gave me sole custody. The plan was to fly the kids out to wherever they were a few times a year. The kids went a total of 2 times around holidays, but they were miserable. Marcia said they shouldn't come again. I listened and validated my kids' feelings, but never trash-talked their mother. She and Paul returned in January. The kids also heavily resent Marcia for leaving. I have them in therapy, but they don't want to attend therapy with her. Their therapist backs this up and says as long as they continue their personal sessions, that's fine. Marcia tried to take me to court for our old agreement, but the judge said because she had no job, no stable housing, they lived out of the van and barely saw her kids for a year, she could only have partial custody. The judge also says they're old enough to decide whether to go. Most of the time, they don't. Marcia called me in tears when they didn't see her for Mother's Day. She said none of this would have happened if I just signed off on them going. She said we could have talked them into it. I said she made her choice. She decided that living in a van and seeing the country was more interesting than seeing her kids for a year. I pointed out she could have chosen to do it for the summer, and the kids might have agreed then. Even if they didn't, they probably wouldn't resent her. But no, she left for an entire year and broke their hearts. This made her cry even more. I'm pretty close with my ex-mother-in-law, and she says I should have let the kids go or tried to convince them to go at the very least. She also said I was needlessly cruel to Marcia on Mother's Day. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. There's nothing you said that I disagree with. People change and mature over time, and you made difficult but proper choices as their father. Good on you. The kids are old enough to make an informed decision. Ripping them away from friends and school when they don't want to go would make them resent you as much as they do her. It's wild that he's being gaslit for rational decisions based on what's best for his children. Clearly, they're the priority in his life. When you say van, do you mean like the stuff on TikTok where they are living in a real van, no toilet, shower, or a small RV-style van? I don't understand where those kids would even be sleeping in the former. It's most likely what you see on TikTok. Some of those Sprinter-type vans do have a toilet and shower, but they take up space or there's little to no privacy. That kind of nomadic lifestyle is great, I think, for a single person or a couple with no children. Marcia's fantasy about travelling the country while living in a van was just that, her fantasy. You did the right thing by prioritising your children. For her, it was just a year. For your kids, it was a defining moment in their relationship with their mother that they will carry forever.